Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating and creative young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fairlane Raymundo. I am based in California, but I was born and raised in the Philippines. I migrated about 13 years ago. So this is home for now. I guess I have two homes, the Philippines and the US, and I'm glad to be here. So I'm a
Yeah, so give
creator.
us a backstory.
Okay, I'm a creator. I do several things, but I would consider myself first and foremost a writer. I have written several full length films when I was in the Philippines, seven, I think. I also am a published author, and also a comic book writer. My next comic book, is going to be published, I think, September of this year. And it is about it since I would say my passion has always been Asian culture, Asian literature, Asian mythology. The comic book is actually inspired by that. It's the name of the comic book is Aswang, and that is monsters in English. And the backstory is that it's composed of five, what you can call them like bad monsters. They came from the most powerful families of monsters, and but they are bad at being bad, and so they were ostracized by their family, disowned, and with nothing left, being broke, no home, no jobs, they decided to enroll in a superhero school, and that's where the adventure begins. I also have like you, I also have a podcast and a YouTube channel. The name of that is Asian Entertainment and Culture. I really want to promote and sort of raise awareness and grow the culture itself of Asian culture and Asian entertainment. So, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm glad to be sharing this story with you.
Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your amazing story with us today.
Glad
It
to be here.
always intrigues me when I meet women who immigrate to different countries and are on the cutting edge of technology and entertainment. And as a digital storyteller, I'm
Mhm.
particularly excited to meet you because I'm kind of on that journey myself, trying to become a filmmaker.
Ah.
So, can you share a bit of your background and what inspired you to create RayCo Media
Mhm.
and Asian entertainment and culture?
Mhm. I my father is actually an artist, and he was a pretty good one. That's how he supported the family ever since I was young. That was what he has always been doing. He did pass away during the COVID era, not because of COVID, but that's when unfortunately he left us. But one thing that remained is that even though he was doing commercial art, he worked for one of the biggest, or if not the biggest entertainment company in the Philippines. He has always been very much into mythology and movies. And I guess I got that from him. When I was a little kid, I would always come up with stories. He would always, it was crazy. Like every day when I would walk from and to school. So whenever I would come back from school and he asks me like, "Oh, what happened to your school today? What did you learn?" Instead of telling him about what I learned from school, I will tell him made up stories about how I met some monsters, Philippine monsters, Asian monsters along the way. And I guess he would just get on with it. Like he would just, okay, he would ask me questions about, what kind of vampire I met, what kind of dinosaurs I met, and I just went on with it. And I guess that was his way of nurturing my love for mythology. And that's, I think, where it all began. So when I graduated from college, I did get a regular 9 to 5 job just because, Asians, we do need to have a stable career. That's what was instilled in us. But I never forgot my love for filmmaking. And so I've always had a second job. And my second job at that time was for a TV station. And that's where my career started in writing. I would write scripts for TV shows, eventually for movies. And when I was so it, I ended up writing 7 full feature films and publishing 2 books. And I guess after several years, I just kind of realized that I've sort of worked with all of my idols in the Philippine movie industry, but I've never really worked for the biggest idol that I had, which was my father. And so I started a book with him, which is this Aswang. Unfortunately, he passed away before we completed it. And that sort of put a stop into what I was doing. I think one of the most heartbreaking thing was that when it happened, it was during COVID. I couldn't go home, so I couldn't really see him. I couldn't send him off because it was going to be useless. I could have gone home, but the Philippine rule at that time was that I was going to be put in a quarantine for about 2 weeks. They couldn't hold the body for that long. In fact, the rule in the Philippines at that time is once you pass away, they had to cremate you the same day. So it was just like there was nothing for me to do. And so I guess that was very hard for me. I couldn't continue with it until one day I just dreamt of him saying, just like your traditional Asian father asking me to get off my bleep and actually finish what we started. So that was how my journey towards doing more books and more literary things in the US started. It's been, as I've said, it hasn't been easy, but my background in filmmaking in the Philippines helped me a lot. I would say one of the most successful movies that I did in the Philippines is also based on mythology. So, and it was chosen as an entry for the biggest film festival in the Philippines. So that's also about monsters, Philippine monsters, about cousins who found themselves having superpowers they didn't know about. So yeah, that's basically how it started. Asian entertainment and culture. I aim to create some sort of a multimedia company that would promote Asian literature, Asian culture, Asian artists, primarily because that's really what I love. I love storytelling. I love creativity. I've always told all of my subscribers that I can't offer them any kind of economic advice or political advice, but I what I want to do is for the few minutes or 1 hour, 2 hours that I am with them, I just want to entertain them. I just want them to have a good time and some sort of relief in their lives. So yeah, that I hope that I would like to launch the magazine this month or next month, and then after that, more things to come, maybe a documentary on the different Asian artists in the US.
Wow, absolutely amazing. I really feel for you with regards to your father's passing during COVID. I lost my mom
Oh,
during COVID. I couldn't go back to Zimbabwe to bury her.
oh, I'm so
And very
sorry.
similarly, I had just started the Her Story podcast,
Yeah.
and I was grieving. I had to stop for almost 6 months. I couldn't function. I couldn't work. And then I had a dream like yours, and my mom said to me, "So long as you're 6 feet above the ground, this job is not done.
Yeah.
You need to get up." And do you know, Fairlane, I put my platform online. So we were having in-person events,
Right.
and then we started having online summits, and we scaled from 6,000 women to 50,000 women in the 18 months during COVID. So COVID actually helped Her Story grow and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
out there in a bigger way. So
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very similar.
That's so odd. It's so I don't know what it is with these parents. They just scold us even in our
And they'll come back from the grave just to
right.
raise and get you to get on with things.
Yeah. Yeah. It was odd
So,
because when I had that dream, it was the very first time I dreamt of him. Like
oh,
from him
wow.
passing, I've never had any kind of it was the very first time. And it was because he wanted to scold me for using him as an excuse. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You have to keep living. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when breaking into media and entertainment industry as an Asian entertainer, especially in the US?
Right. I think the biggest one, and this is going to sound odd for a lot of people, it was my
Mhm.
accent. And it was
Oh,
also my biggest insecurity because I wasn't born and raised in the US. I was born and raised in the Philippines. And
right.
so, and in the by Philippine standards, I'm not bad at all when I mean, my English skills, it's not perfect,
Yeah.
but it's not bad at all. But if you want to be out there, like talking to the camera, building your audience using a language that isn't your own, you have to be at the very least decent. And I still don't know if I speak decent English. And so that was really the biggest hurdle because that's one thing that people will know about me. That's what
Yeah.
they will hear about me. So that was it.
Oh,
My accent. Eventually, I just came to realize that Americans don't really care. I care more about it than they do. They
yes.
and I just told my audience, look, if I pronounce something incorrectly, let me know because I would rather be wrong for 5 minutes than be wrong for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
so they're more about the substance. So that's one thing. The other thing is that before going to the US, I've been hearing about discrimination and all of those stuff. And it does exist, but it
Yeah.
isn't as bad as people told me about it. It's not bad at all. And I think I've been lucky or blessed to have met and worked with people that really don't care. They really don't care about my race. The only thing that they care about is what it is that I can deliver for the company that they have or the services that I offer. So I guess the hurdles would be more my own making rather than actual, yeah, hurdles that's out there. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So you've had a very positive experience all around being in the United States.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's been a very, very welcoming country, and I love it. I love being here.
Yeah.
I've had isolated incidents. I
Mhm.
remember going to New York actually, and I was on my way to my hotel from the airport, and there was this. I guess he was not right in the head, and he was just spewing like
Oh,
bad things to everybody in the train. But he was more mentally ill. You can see that he
right,
was mentally ill more than him being just racist. And
right.
when in a situation like that, and you know that there's something medically wrong with a person, you have to be more compassionate than judgmental.
Yeah.
Besides, there's absolutely nothing you can do about that. He's mentally ill. What are you going to do, right? But it's
Yes.
incidences like that. But overall, things have been good.
Oh, that is so good to know.
Yeah.
So, was there a defining moment in your career when you realized the need to amplify Asian voices in global entertainment?
Yes. So it actually happened, I'd say, when I was very, very young. I
Right.
remember our Leia Salonga. She's the very first. She played the original role of Kim for Miss Saigon, and she's Filipina. She started off at the West End in London, and then when they were moving the show to Broadway, of course, she was the number one choice because she's like the
Yes.
famous Kim of Miss Saigon.
Right.
And yeah, and then it was just shocking that she wasn't going to be allowed to play it because I think the union wanted an Asian American to play it
Oh,
instead of, yeah, instead
okay.
of somebody from
Foreign.
yeah, from a foreign land. And so they had Macintosh, the producer of Miss Saigon, go and conduct an audition, and he did. And I think he went through like 24,000 applicants, and he couldn't find any that could
Right.
play her role. And so in the meantime, she was just doing her thing. She was just doing her best playing Kim. And so
Mm,
Macintosh said, if you don't allow me to get her, I'm just going to pull out. I don't care about the investments anymore, but I'm not gonna have anybody play a role that does not fit them. And so she did eventually start playing the role of Kim, and she did it for I think 4 or 5 years. But
okay.
for the Philippines, it was a huge thing, and it was a huge wake up call that just because you have a skill and you have the skill that they need and the talent that they need, who you are and where you come from can still play a
Matter.
part. Yeah. So I think that was one of the biggest, I think that like the aha moment for me. Like
Yes.
this has to change. And I
Yeah.
do have to commend, of course, Macintosh for actually fighting for her.
Taking a stand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he invested like I think 20 million already. So
Wow.
he was going to lose all of it if he
He
so
put
so
out.
two things. I also realized that there are good people like Macintosh that will stand for what they believe is right. So I feel like, okay, if I can be both, if I can be Leia and sort of just get my message across, and I can
Yeah,
also eventually become a Macintosh, someone that will support other Asian artists, I think that would be ideal.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Now, Asian representation in entertainment has been a long-standing issue. In your opinion, what are the most harmful stereotypes that still persist, and how do you work to dismantle them?
Um, I honestly, the one thing that I disagree with when it comes to Asians is that we're not for the stage, and we're more for like support groups, like
Mhm.
professionals that are building the show rather than actually being the
Being in the show.
centerpiece of a
Yeah,
show. Yeah. Which is absolutely not right. It is very innate in many Asian countries. I can't claim for all Asian countries, but it's very innate in many Asian countries for us to be very careful of our words. So before we say something, we have always been trained to make sure that you process that thought, you
right,
debate with yourself, and only when you are very certain will you open your mouth to actually say something. And
right.
so in a very lively discussion, we tend to hold back because we're always like already thinking of what the consequences are of what we're about to say. And so
Um,
people mistake that from shyness or for not being
Lack
fit
of
to be
confidence.
yeah.
Yeah,
um, but it's not true. It's just that we're more thoughtful. I'm not saying that Americans are not thoughtful. I'm not saying that. But
yeah,
one good thing I like about Americans, though, is that they are brave. They're brave and they're not afraid to make mistakes. Like if they say something and you prove them wrong, eventually they're like, oh, yeah, okay, forget what I said. It's like
yeah,
we're not like that. So that's one stereotype that I think is very wrong. The other thing is that we're only good at math and science.
right. Yeah, that's a very big
and
stereotype.
and we are but that's not the only thing that we are good at.
Yes.
It's not like, I wouldn't say it's a totally negative thing. It's just that because of that impression, some opportunities can pass us by because
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
not top of mind when it comes to those. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about some of your favorite films. What are some of the favorite Asian-led films, TV shows, or books that you believe have done an excellent job of representation?
I'm an old school, so Seven Samurai would be one. I think the way it was on like forever ago, but it stands the test of time. It still
Mhm.
remains one of the greatest movies of all time. I think the way that it has represented the culture of Japanese,
Yes.
they do get a bad rep for a lot of things, but the way that they have embraced and loved their culture, from their fashion to their just their tradition and how they deal with people, the care and how they are very calculated in what they do and what they say. That's very
Yeah.
much highlighted in the film. We have one from South Korea. It's called The Man from Nowhere, and unfortunately, it's actually an action film. But that
Right.
was one film that proved Filipinos are really, really not Filipinos, Koreans are really good, or Asians in general,
Mhm.
are really good in jam-packed thriller to action kind of movie. So the
Yes.
story is just about this guy who was minding his own business, and the kid who kept on pestering him whenever he goes to work or go out, ended up getting kidnapped. And so he decided, he didn't know this girl, but because he witnessed it, he was like, oh my God, now I have to save her.
Do something
uh,
about this.
yeah. So I'm not going to tell you how it ended. And also, unfortunately, the girl passed away. She passed away
Oh,
very
mm.
recently, but it's one of the best films of all time.
Yeah, there are
In
some of those movies that are just classics.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's one from India. It's Three Idiots is is the title.
Uh-huh.
And you can just count on India to come up with titles like that. But yeah, Three Idiots is one. And it was so odd because it was actually the three main characters. They're the three most intelligent students in the university. But
Right.
they're idiots, primarily because I wouldn't call them naive. It's just that they're so used to what life was supposed to be for them that they're not thinking of what the kind of life that they wanted to live. And so the
Okay.
entire movie is the juxtaposition and just how brilliant they are, but also they're not able to tap in that brilliance because they're not really aware.
Yeah.
They thought they were just like, this is what we're supposed to do, it's okay. Like,
I
so
love
those
it.
three films I really love. And of course I have to mention my own. From the Philippines, Himala is still one of the greatest movie of all time, and also the lead character, the lead actress, was played by, I would say, the greatest actress in the Philippines of all time, Nora Honor. And it was about this woman who claimed that the Virgin Mary, it's a primarily Catholic country,
Right.
that
Yeah.
the Virgin Mary, yeah, was showing herself to her. And so she had the entire city, eventually the entire country, and even other countries coming to the Philippines because
Oh, wow.
she was making up all of these things to prove that the Virgin Mary was actually talking to her. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, how do you ensure that Asian narratives in your projects are authentic and culturally accurate rather than just checking a diversity box?
Right. Um, I primarily, one way to do it is, one, if you get people, as many people as you could, that would accurately tell their story. So it's not
Yes.
just always coming from me.
Yeah.
So, and also, the one thing that's complicated and also beautiful about Asia is that there are more than 40 countries. And
Yes.
sometimes in each country, there are like hundreds of languages, and then
Yeah.
hundreds of culture. In the Philippines, we have like 180 ethno-linguistic groups. You
Wow.
drive 3 hours north and you wouldn't understand what the language that they're, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I try to, especially lately, I'm trying to get as many Asians as possible to tell their story. uh
Right.
it doesn't matter if it's a big story or small story, just as long as they could tell it. Number
Yeah.
one is that I think what really works is honesty, not censoring myself and fearing that I would offend this set of people, or some people will be not happy with what I say. Because I think at the end of the day, if you want to talk about things that matter,
Yeah.
you're bound to offend someone. You're bound to
Yes.
do that, and they're
Yes.
bound to offend you too, right? Because if you're opening that space, allowing yourself to just say what you think is needs to be said, then you have to be open to hear what you need to hear. So
Yeah.
I think it has to
That's
work
both
both ways.
ways.
Yeah, that I will say what I think is with care and thought, of course.
Hmm.
But then I'm also open to the fact that maybe most likely someone is going to come and say you're wrong. I think you're an idiot. I think you're dumb, and this is how it should be. I'm open to all of that.
Listening. Now, you're a strong advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. What are the biggest barriers still preventing true inclusivity in the entertainment industry? And how is the current political dispensation affecting people in the United States right now?
I think the biggest hurdle really is the creators behind the movie. So
Yeah.
if you have creators from the I don't know if people know this, but majority of Hollywood is white and Jewish, I would say.
Yes.
So these are the most powerful people. They're the people with money, and you can't blame them because that's what they know. So when they create movies, when they create stories, you would create things based on what you know, and so that then becomes what is required. So if they create stories about their culture and their heritage, then it has to be represented by people like them. So I think that is the main problem. And in all and this I always say, like, not everybody in Hollywood is evil. There's a lot of great people out there. There's a lot of people that are really trying to open their minds and to actually uh, be more diverse in the story that they are telling. But it's not gonna happen in 10 years. It's not gonna happen in 20 years, not even in 30. It's gonna take another lifetime or two for that to happen. And so I think the biggest hurdle is that people are impatient. If we work together instead of constantly antagonizing each other, I think it's going to be better. So I think that's the biggest hurdle. In terms of political, I don't usually talk about. I always tell my subscribers in my YouTube channel and our Patreon community that I don't think you should be taking your political cue from a comic book artist or from a talk show host or something like that. So this, and I've said this many, many times before. I do love the US. This is my country now, as much as I love the Philippines, because that's the country that I was born in, and that is a country that raised and nurtured me. So the only thing that we can concentrate on really is ourselves. So if we think that everyone else is racist, the best thing to do is to not be racist. If we think that there has to be more opportunities for people of color, then let's come and work together to create projects that would provide opportunities for people of color. So I think that is it. But in terms of political, I am happy to say that I still have a job. I'm still able to provide for my family here in the US and family in the Philippines. So right now I want to concentrate on good things and actually pulling people together instead of creating further division.
Fantastic. My last two questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment.
Hmm.
In the first one, I'm going to teleport you back.
Okay.
We're going to go back to that young girl who decided to go into the world of filmmaking and storytelling. Just in case there is another young person who's listening to this podcast right now, if you could go back and give yourself three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
I would say number one, if you think it's a horrible idea, do it as soon as possible. For somebody, I was so hard-headed when I was a kid that whenever somebody tells me to not do something, I do it. And so I would just tell that person, if you think it's a horrible idea, do it as soon as possible so you can get over it and recover from it and learn. And that would be the second lesson. Always make sure that you learn, even if it brings you sorrow or misery. For as long as you learn and you apply that learning in the next steps, you'll be okay. And third, I would say at times planning, wisdom aren't enough. Sometimes you do need that surge of stupid courage, I would say. There are so many things I could have done but didn't because I was just so afraid of the consequences. And so I think if I will just give in to that 5 seconds of courage, I think I would have done better. So I would tell her, if your gut tells you do it, trust it. Um, because I can promise myself that the people who I love and who loved me then will always be there for me no matter what. Failure, win, lose, or draw, they'll always be there. And faith, of course. So God has never left my side. In fact, His presence has always been like stronger when I am in the middle of something very difficult. So just don't be afraid, just do it. So that I would say, if you think it's a horrible idea, do it as soon as possible. Learn from it and listen to that stupid courage inside of you.
I love the stupid courage inside of you. I've always said that for me personally, failure is not having tried.
Right,
I would rather try and fail than
right,
not try at all and live with the regret that I didn't try.
right, 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 right.
I actually love stupid courage. I'll remember that. Okay, my last question for you is now futuristic. And I'm going to teleport you into the future, and we're going to go and sit with a 90-year-old you. And she's sitting in her rocking chair. Maybe she's on the dance floor with science and technology. You'll probably be on your feet dancing somewhere. But if I could take you into the future to meet this amazing woman who has led you up until this point all your life, what will you say to her when you finally meet her? And I'll tell you the reason why I love to ask this question. A lot of women forget that the wise woman is already in them.
Mhm.
But she's that quiet voice, that feeling, that gut feeling you have that says, go left, go right, say yes, say no, grab this opportunity, don't. What will you say to your wise woman when you finally meet her?
Um, Probably thank that that woman. As I've said, it has never been, and I'm thankful that it was not a smooth sailing journey, but she has been so strong through all of it. Um, she has kept her sense of humor. So number one would be that I would thank her that this is her and that I've gotten to experience life and appreciate life through her lens. Number two is that I would remind her that she promised to always take care of dogs. So I love dogs, and I promise that once I retire, I'm going to adopt as many elder dogs that I could to give them like a dignified last part of their lives. And third, I would want to tell her that I am very, very sure that once she meets her maker, um, it's going to be better, and that she will finally be able to ask the questions that has been bugging her all her life. That's it, I think.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Arlene, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming online and sharing your story with our community today.
Thank
I
you.
have your website at the bottom of the screen. How can people support you in all of your endeavors as a creative?
Right. If you can just follow me on X, it's the same Asian EAC, Entertainment and Culture. Also, I do have a very strong and diverse and active community on Patreon. Same thing. It's if you go to Patreon, just search for Asian EAC. We're there. We talk about culture. We talk about movies and TV shows. And visit the website Asian Entertainment and Culture. It's now on a soft launch, but eventually, I think within the month or next month, we're going to launch the magazine. And just say hi, pop in. Just that's it. If you can do all that, I'd be happy.
That is awesome. Well, I've got some of your fans online on YouTube chiming in there. I'll just put their comments so you see who has chimed in. Thank you so much. All the best with maths and science. That is very, very true. Absolutely awesome to have people engage with us as we are having this podcast. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to empower you with tools to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a wannabe filmmaker, or if you are a filmmaker who's out there struggling and thinking this isn't working, here is a story to inspire you to stay on track, keep living your dream. It will come to fruition. So I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. Have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. And thanks again for the interview. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.